Hello, everybody. Welcome to Marine Mammal Monday. If you are tuning in for Marine Mammal Monday, you are in the perfect spot. We are here for the After the Call edition. So, getting a little bit of a head start jump on Earth Day celebrations, thinking about our impact here, and thinking about the impact that you all have on marine mammals as well with making that call into us. So, we are here with the Marine Mammal Center here for Marine Mammal Monday, thinking all about what happens with our rescue and especially a big emphasis on our dispatch team and thinking about what happens, what actions we take as an institution after we get a call that there's a marine mammal in need. So, if you're just joining us, welcome again. You're here for Marine Mammal Monday. And feel free while we're waiting for a couple of minutes as folks join us to go ahead and drop your name into the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. It's always fun for us to get to see sort of our reach while we're out doing these live events. It's always really, really fun. And, let us know if you've been to a Marine Mammal Monday before or if this is your very first one. If it is, welcome. If this is a return one for you, welcome back. We love to see our return folks as well. But you are in the right spot for Marine Mammal Monday. So we'll give it just a couple more minutes here as folks filter in. Oh, wonderful. Welcome, Robin, who is a Sausalito volunteer. This should be a little bit familiar to you. And we've got Peter. Welcome back. We have Nancy, who's in Kona, Hawaii. Oh, my goodness. Aloha and welcome. Laura, who's back again from New York City. Welcome back, Laura. We have Diane coming in from San Simeon. Ooh, it must be really, really fun there. Welcome, welcome. And again, welcome back. Lisa, hello. I see you tuning in as well. This is so exciting. Oh my goodness. We've got people coming in from all over the place. We have Sally coming in from Mendocino. Nancy, who's a volunteer at Cape Kaiola. Wonderful. Welcome and aloha. We've got Jake from the Outer Sunset, San Francisco. I'm right across from you. I'm in the Outer Richmond. Natasha, we've got a Wednesday night topside volunteer. Oh my goodness, we have so many volunteers joining us today. This is really exciting. Oh, and Angel from Massachusetts. That's extra exciting. It's a little later there. So, welcome, welcome. You are in the right spot. I'm so excited to get to share some of this with you all. We do also have a special guest that you can see on screen already, too. So we've got Justin joining us today. So we'll get started here in just maybe one more minute. You're also allowed to comment in if you are not a volunteer, just putting it out there. We love all groups of humans coming to see us. If you are just joining in now, welcome to Marine Mammal Monday. This is our After the Call edition of this, where we're exploring a little bit more about what happens after we receive a call that there's a marine mammal in need. We receive over 10,000 calls every year. So there's a lot that goes into this and a lot that goes on behind those scenes. Okay. All right. Well, then let's get started. So, for our Marine Mammal Monday after the call, welcome again. My name is Crystal. I'm the Public Programs Coordinator. I'm one of the presenters for today. We also have Justin here, who is our Northern Range Operations Manager, giving us a nice extra special guest spotlight to give us some of those really behind the scene details as to what goes on. And then managing the comment box below, we have Katie as normal. So she'll be able to help answer any of those questions that come in. If we don't get to them here, we will get to them in the comments at some point. So thank you, thank you. Now, if this is your first Marine Mammal Monday, to give a little bit of Some background as to who we are here at the Marine Mammal Center. We are a global leader in marine mammal health, science, and conservation, and we are the largest marine mammal hospital in the entire world. We are a nonprofit that runs off of about 1,300 incredibly dedicated volunteers, so dedicated that some of them are even tuning in right now, which is pretty special. And we wouldn't be able to do it without them. So we survive as an institution mostly because these folks are willing to give us that time as well. Now, what we do at the Marine Mammal Center is we rescue, rehabilitate, we research, and release marine mammals. So you can kind of see some of that taking place in these photos here. If we look at the top left, you can see that after we receive a call on our hotline, which is 24 hours, it's 415 289 SEAL. After receiving that call, we will go and dispatch a team out to go and monitor that animal, see what they're doing. Sometimes we have to use specialized tools like this net as an example, but we always bring different tools like those boards that you're seeing these trained volunteers use in order to move the animal where it needs to go. Sometimes it helps us get them onto carriers so that we can safely transport them to our hospital. Once on site at our hospital, you can see we have our sea otter in the top right getting an ultrasound. That's only one of the many things that we can do once they're on site. We do a lot of care trying to see what brings them to our hospital and also thinking about how we can best care for them. We can do basically anything that you can do at a human hospital. So things from ultrasound, x rays, brain scans, we can do surgeries all on site to best care for our marine mammals. We also research those marine mammals because we want to know not only why they're there, but how we can best prevent that in the future. So, by doing that to better understand their injuries or any diseases that they may have, we can think about how we can prevent this to create a healthier ocean, not just for marine mammals, but also for humans. And in that way, and through that research, that's how we're best contributing to the global ocean conservation, where we're able to give back as a community to create a better ocean for everyone. And then, of course, we have our ultimate goal, our release down there at the bottom as well. It's kind of like graduating from our facility. Our goal is ultimately to get each and every one of these patients back into their ocean homes. Now, what I get to do here is in the education side of things. So I get to further our mission by spreading the word. So I hope that you all take that on as well, and thinking a little bit more about how we share the stories of our patients. We have a ton of resources currently available on our website. So if you haven't had the chance to visit, please do. It's marinemammalcenter.org. There's a little education tab where you can find lots of things ranging from curriculum to other activities that you can do at home. Currently on site, and we have about 95 patients. So we've got about 65 elephant seals, 13 California sea lions, 13 harbor seals, 2 Guadalupe fur seals, a southern sea otter, and a Hawaiian monk seal. And I'm just realizing now that that sea otter picture is not representing a sea otter, so I apologize. We'll fix that a little bit later. But that is not what a sea otter looks like. Um, we do have about 95 patients on site, though, which is pretty exciting. So it's very, very busy. We're finding that we are in pupping season here. But of course, all of these patients start with a phone call, um, which we rely heavily on the public and people like you to make that happen. So we're getting a little bit of a head start here thinking about our impact that we have that really comes from the public like you. So thank you so much for making those 10,000 phone calls happen every year, making sure that these 95 patients are receiving that care. And to give a little bit of insight as to what a year for us can look like, I did want to show a small video about last year and the number of patients that we had. So here's a short video of a year in numbers for 2021. Thanks to folks like you, we were able to help out tons of patients last year, and we are expecting to be able to help even more this year. So, thank you again so much for participating, for being part of the solution here with us. Now, to give just a little bit more context as to where we are, we're typically seeing somewhere between 600 to 800 patients every single year, and we cover 600 miles of California coast and also Hawaii within our range here. So you can see that sort of highlighted on the side, our range all the way down the coast here. So the main hospital site is in Sausalito, which is in the Bay Area. So if you look in kind of right in that middle section there between the two parts of the bay coming together, that's where our Sausalito main hospital site is located. We do also have our main hospital on Hawaii called Keikaiola, that you can see on the island chain map on the left side here. Now, because our range is so large, it can be a little bit of a handful to take care of. So we have also a couple of field offices that help to support that main hospital in Sausalito. And this is just sort of a little bit of what they look like here. You can see on the right, that is the San Luis Obispo field office. On the left are some of the pens that we have at our Monterey Bay office as well. But now, without further ado, since we are focusing in on the Sausalito Hospital and thinking a little bit more about that, I do want to finally get to introduce our guest. So, Justin, welcome in. And now, as our Northern Range Operations Manager, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Crystal, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. So, as Crystal said, I'm the Northern Range Operations Manager, and what that means is I basically manage the volunteer base as far as rescue and responses go from San Mateo County all the way north to Mendocino County. In the Monterey Bay, kind of Moss Landing area, that's a different subset, and then the San Luis Obispo area is a different manager as well. So I'm managing all the volunteers on the response side, helping triage calls. Dispatch handles the day to day, but I'm tightly intertwined with them. I used to work in the dispatch office, so pretty intimate knowledge of what's going on day to day with those guys as well.
Thank you again so much for joining us and giving us sort of this inside peek into what goes on. So, now the question that's on everybody's mind with this one in particular, what happens after a call? Can you walk us through some of those steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So we get the call from folks like you, everyone in the public. It comes into our main our dispatch office here in the main hospital. We have six employed dispatchers to handle all those 10,000 plus calls that Crystal was mentioning earlier. And then what our team in the dispatch office does is they'll triage those calls, sort of decide what has the highest priority. They'll even work with the Monterey Bay and the San Luis Obispo field offices, helping triage and send their teams out and that kind of stuff. But we'll get a call. We'll use a couple different platforms to do this, but we'll send out sort of an APB or an all points bulletin to our volunteer base, and whoever's ready and raring to go, we get them kind of geared up. We get one or two people on site here to get a truck and some gear, like Crystal was talking about. The rest of the team heads out to the beach to find the animal, keep people away, make sure it's safe, do some outreach as well there on the beach. It's first call comes in, and then we get people rolling. And then, as you can see here, kind of difficult terrain. We'll get people on the beach. If we can't find enough volunteers for the time, we'll try and enlist members of the public to help lift and carry over this kind of rocky, craggy terrain. As everyone knows, California coastlines aren't all beautiful, smooth, sandy beaches, so it can be a little tough. But yeah, we'll get the animal kind of netted in the carrier safely. Our trained responders are well equipped to do so. And then, like I said, we'll start huffing it back up to the truck. Sometimes we'll run into some difficulties like stairs. There's a lot of access points that require stairs or no stairs at all, and some hefty trails. So it can be challenging. Human safety is our number one priority when we're doing this kind of response here. So we want to make sure all our responders are safe. We want to make sure the animal's safe and everyone gets home, alive and well. And as I mentioned before, we'll roll out a truck here. We got some nice shiny vehicles that through donations we were able to utilize. We've been slowly replacing those over the years from our older vehicles. So thank you very much for everyone that donates for those as well. But as you can see here, we got our response truck. We throw a bunch of gear in the back. Maybe multiple responses will happen at a time. We have during our busy pupping season. I think the record is we had 5 responses go in one same truck and end up at Sausalito altogether. So 5 elephant seal pups showed up at the same time just because it was a super busy day. So yeah, can't do without all that equipment.
Thank you so much for telling us a little bit about what it takes to get out onto the beach even. It sounds like quite the endeavor. Now, just, to give us a little bit of context, what sorts of animals are we typically seeing? What are our patients like? Oh
Yeah,
my goodness,
so
I almost forgot. I'm so sorry. There are some special cases as well.
right, yeah. So we'll talk about that first. So we also do, our regular beach responses. And I say beach, it could be craggy cliffside, it could be a kind of treacherous terrain. But sort of the next level up from that is what we call special rescue operations. Here in the Northern Range, the most typical place we'll see this is Pier 39. And if you've ever been there, you may or may not have seen this. We'll see sea lions. We calls about sea lions that have some sort of entanglement, as we call them. Fishing line, netting, packing straps. We've seen aerobie frisbees before. Something entangling around the animal, causing damage, causing problems. As you can see in the kind of upper left here, looks to be kind of a fishing line entanglement. These require much larger teams, a lot more coordination. As you can see, we're on the floating docks here. There's hundreds of sea lions out. And we got to pick out one special one that we need to get. But at the same time, again, maintaining human safety and what is good for the entire population. Does it make sense to rescue this animal if it's going to harm a bunch of others in the process? We got to weigh all that out. But like I said, specialized teams, a lot more coordination in people. We might get our boats out there. We do use dart projectors, kind of a tranquilizer projector, if you will, to sort of sedate the animals and help us capture them better because these animals do look very injured with these entanglements, but they are still very healthy and robust otherwise. So having a tranquilizer on board sort of helps us capture those guys, especially if they go in the water. It can be difficult to get them because we're not used to being in the water, and they are. And then I think our highest level that we do that is very highly specialized training. We typically don't get volunteers out on this, but we do entangled whale response. This is sort of a big collaborative effort. It's not just the Marine Mammal Center alone. We coordinate with a bunch of organizations all up and down the California coast. We get the federal government involved because we work very closely under them with our permitting. But yeah, entangled whale response is sort of our highest level of what we do. And we are seeing those, just entanglements happening up and down the California coast. And we go out, send some teams out and respond to that as well and do the best we can to get those guys disentangled.
It's always really interesting to get to see some of our almost like house calls that we're able to make in order to best care for these marine mammals. So whether they actually make it onto the coast or not, definitely always feel free to give us a call. That number again is 415-289-SEAL, SEAL, for any marine mammal that you see that might be in distress, because whether or not they're on the coast or in the water, we're able to still coordinate to create that area where we can make sure that they get saved and rescued in whichever way possible. Okay, now I alluded to this earlier because I kind of forgot, but Justin, now would you mind telling us a little bit more about the kinds of patients that we see?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have here, our most common patients are California sea lions. Those are kind of the highest number we see every year, followed closely by northern elephant seals and then Pacific harbor seals. As I sort of alluded to before, we're in the middle of pupping season here, so we see a lot of those northern elephant seal pups. We see harbor seal pups coming in. And then we also get, various fur seals, as you saw in kind of some earlier slides, the Guadalupe fur seal as well as the northern fur seal. We see stellar sea lions. They're a pretty rare case. We usually find those further north, kind of in the Alaska Arctic region, because they prefer colder weather and they're much larger patients to care for. So we got to be kind of specialized when we take them in. The sea otters, as Crystal mentioned, we have one in care right now. We work very closely with Monterey Bay Aquarium since they have a much more robust sea otter program. So we'll work with them about triaging what we can handle, what they can take on, that kind of stuff. And then, as I said before, we'll work with small cetaceans like dolphins, harbor porpoises, that kind of stuff if they wash up. And then, as Crystal said, we'll make those house calls to the larger whales, the large cetaceans if we need to. Again, very specialized teams to go make those house calls for those guys, though. And then, as I said, we kind of hit seasonality with our patients. Typically, California sea lions we see sort of in the middle of the year, but we they do strand all throughout the year. The elephant seals and the harbor seal pups. The elephant seals start pupping a little bit earlier than the harbor seal pups, but they'll kind of hit right at the same time. We'll see Guadalupe fur seals coming through here in sort of early spring or late spring into early summer. Sea otters they'll strand kind of all year round. And then the northern fur seals kind of tail end the book in the year there. And then, as I said, the pupping season is in full swing, so we'll see tons of strandings here in our rookeries. San Simeon is a big one, the Piedras Blancas rookery. We do have another smaller kind of harbor seal rookery up in Sea Ranch, but they're all up and down the coast. We have elephant seals at Año Nuevo. We have harbor seals down in Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, as well as Hopkins Marine Station in Monterey. So there's rookeries all up and down the coast, and that range is expanding. Something to keep in mind. What you saw 5-10 years ago. Oh, it's a rarity to see an elephant seal here. May not be so rare anymore, as we're starting to see more and more. And then, as I said, or as Crystal said in the beginning of all this, this is our kind of whole range, and this is sort of a quick and easy breakdown of how our rescues pan out. As I said, I'm the Northern Range manager, so I manage from San Mateo up to Mendocino County. And then we have a manager for the Monterey Bay area and a manager for the San Luis Obispo area. This graphic can be a little bit deceiving because it is broken out by county. San Luis Obispo is its own county. They receive a hefty amount of calls. About 30% of our rescues come from there. And then Santa Cruz and Monterey are lumped together. If you add them up, it's about 35%. That does leave the rest of the slice for me. So, all these sort of ancillary counties you see comprise the Northern Range. So you add up all those numbers, and I make up the rest of the sort of response range here. So yeah, that's sort of the breakdown of where our rescues come from every year. And then, yeah, once we get the animals on site here, we go through, our highly trained volunteers as well as vets. They go through rehab. Sort of the biggest thing we're doing right now, if you see that upper left picture, is what we call fish mash. It's a fish smoothie. We blend up some herring and salmon oil and some other stuff to make it tasty. We feed the pups that. Our volunteer teams will work really closely to move these animals around the pens. Once they're able to free feed on fish, you'll see a little bit more about that on fish school later. You see this upper right, they just dump some herring in. We're teaching them to fish there. Doing some on-site testing, some various types of testings that I know nothing about because I'm not a vet. And then, yeah, like I said, our volunteer crews work tirelessly, all around the clock to make sure these guys are fed and taken care of and getting their medication.
Now, as part of making sure that we can keep track of who's who in here, because during pupping season, we can have 5, 10 of these animals all in a pen together, we do tag and mark them. So, kind of on the two on the right side are hat tags and our grease paint. Those are going to be our easy ways that we can make sure that we know one harbor seal from another because they are absolutely so cute, but they are so cute and all look so similar. Whereas our flipper tags that are what's represented on the left side, that's what they're going to get. That's a little bit different. It's kind of like um, your hospital bracelet, for an example. So it's going to help us to identify them, but it's also a little bit more like a piercing in the way that it is more permanent. So it helps us to keep track of each and every single one of our patients. So if you ever do see a marine mammal while you're out on the coast that you see that bright orange flipper tag of, you can take a picture and send it to us and let us know where you are. That way we can recite that animal and kind of have a little bit of an insight as to how it's doing after release, too, which is pretty special. Now, Justin, we did have a question for you. Pam had asked if you have a favorite animal that you helped to rescue. Do you think we're going to answer that one later?
I have a feeling we can talk about that one a little bit later.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had multiple and I didn't want to step on your favorites.
No, we'll touch on my favorite a little bit later. Don't worry.
Perfect. Now, um, what are some signs that people can look for to know what they should call in for? Oh, actually, I'm just all over the place today. I apologize. I want to show you one of the cutest things that I think happens on site. Now, it's one of the more important steps when it comes to that rehabilitation that Justin was mentioning earlier is that fish school. So, most of our patients are coming to us heavily malnourished, where they are very emaciated, meaning that they don't have quite enough of that blubber or that fat in order to make sure that they're healthy and safe. So we can't release these patients unless we know that they can feed themselves. A lot of them are coming into us where they're very, very young. So we'll do that fish mash during pupping season, just like Justin was saying, where we can directly tube feed them to make sure that they're getting all of the nutrients that they need. Any extra vitamins, supplements, or medicines that are prescribed by our doctors as well. But each and every one of our patients has to graduate from fish school. So I have another short video here all about what fish school is.
Hey, Crystal, I think you're still muted.
I was. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now, Leslie actually asked a great question that is a perfect segue into some of the stories I was going to share with you. So, Leslie asked, are most of the rescues due to pollution and fishing lines or lack of food overall? Now, what we see oftentimes is that marine mammals, most of the threats that they're facing are caused by humans. But the best news about that is that we can also be their greatest champions because of this. So it's going to be kind of a mix of most of those things that you've mentioned. So Justin was sharing earlier an entanglement, some of that ocean trash or pollution affecting some of our sea lions. Oftentimes, if it's smaller, it can be ingested, so no matter what the size of that plastic, it can cause a really big problem. The lack of food overall can be a really big issue as our climate is changing, our ocean is changing temperature. A lot of the food sources for these animals are changing areas where they are. So they have to hunt differently. They might have to be a little bit stronger in order to dive down to those depths. But right now, during pupping season, the biggest problem that we're seeing is actually that these animals are being separated from mom too early oftentimes, so that they're not quite bulking up to that big size. So as some examples, we'll go through here with some stories in a moment, but as like some pretty typical pup examples that we might see, harbor seals, their mom does leave them on the beach while they go and forage for food. They're one of the only marine mammals that does this. But what it does mean is that sometimes people might even be well-meaning as they're approaching those pups that are on the beach. But the thing is, once mom sees that there's something there, like a dog or a person that can be a little bit scary, she's going to abandon that pup, and then that pup is on their own. That's when we have to step in and try to be the best mom that we can for that animal. But of course, we'll never be as good as mom. We actually have to keep those younger animals in a separate hospital because it means they're more susceptible to the diseases of our other patients that potentially are carrying. So it can be really, really tricky for us to make sure that these really extra sensitive animals are cared for properly. So we do want to make sure that the best thing we can do is keep that distance, share that shore with the wildlife, and make sure that we're giving them the space that they need in order to bond and grow. I do have just a couple of examples here of some success stories that I think are really special. So the one that's on the screen now, this is Sea Dog. Sea Dog is a California sea lion who was rescued in June of 2020 and then actually was only with us for about a month, was released in July of 2020. So Sea Dog was rescued off of Pebble Beach and had pneumonia and domoic acid toxicosis. So on the left side, you can see a picture of a sea lion kind of acting a little funky, was reported and called into us because of some strange behavior, which is pretty common for domoic acid toxicosis, and especially pairing that with something like pneumonia. After that month of care, making sure that we can do everything we can to not only bulk them up with lots of good fish, because domoic acid toxicosis is caused from an algae that bioaccumulates and is created more, which is kind of like bioaccumulate, as all of those fish are eating the algae. When our sea lion then eats that fish, they're eating even more in concentration. So that's kind of the explanation for that. So since it does bioaccumulate, a lot of that toxin that was created by the algae is now in our sea lion. So that food that should have nourished that sea lion is now something that is causing them to be sick. Now, the good news is that after only about a month, which is not too long at all, he was able to be re released back down at Chimney Rock. We also have a couple of other patients I'd like to highlight. So, our next one here is Mizuna. You can see a sad photo up at the top. That is their pre admit photo here. Again, also at Pebble Beach. But Mizuna actually was in because they were malnourished and had a lot of stingray barbs, so had some trauma. So Mizuna actually needed multiple surgeries in order to be re-released. Again, actually rescued around Pebble Beach in July of 2021 and was released in August. And after those 6 stingray barbs were released or were removed, then we were able to release Mizuna after bulking up a little bit. You can see at the bottom there a much happier, healthier looking um, animal there right down at the bottom. That's one of our elephant seals. And then the last one I want to highlight here really quickly is just Langley and Sprout. I personally, love the sea otters. I did get my start in this field with sea otters, so they have a very special place in my heart. And Langley and Sprout actually came in separately, but they did spend a lot of time together, which is why we have these photos of them together. So Langley joined us in May of 2018 and was released through a partnership that we have with Monterey Bay Aquarium in January of 2019. So you can tell just even from that there's a lot of different kinds of care that goes into these different marine mammals. Whereas one of our California sea lion had a really short stay of only about a month, Langley and Sprout, being sea otters, needed a lot of different kinds of care that required that they were here for much longer. Sprout did also come in with domoic acid toxicosis as well. And the nice thing about all of these animals that I did get to highlight is that they are also all adoptable on our website. So if you wanted to contribute in that way, or if you wanted to do a fun thing for Earth Day coming up, take a peek on our website and you might see some of those animals. Okay, so Justin, back to you. What can we do if we see a marine mammal in distress?
Yeah, the best thing to do is give it plenty of space. I think the biggest sort of reason for a call that we'll get in the dispatch office is that they see a marine mammal out of the water, and everyone thinks that they should still be in the water all the time. That's not true. Marine mammals, except for cetaceans, dolphins and stuff, they can be out of the water for days at a time. Elephant seals, for example, they will go through what's called a catastrophic molt. They'll be on the beach for over a week if necessary. There's, they may go in and out of the water to cool off, but they're perfectly fine. So keeping your distance, keeping your dog away. You don't need to dump water on it. You don't need to drag it back into the water. Just keep your distance and give us a call on that hotline there. And again, it's 415-289-SEAL or 7325. Our dispatch office also does have the ability to receive pictures via email, and you can just email them in directly to rescue@tmmc.org. And what we always recommend is one good kind of close-up shot with your zoom from 50 feet away of the animal, and then kind of a broader drawn out picture so we can see kind of what's going on around the animal. Yeah, and then just any of those signs of sort of lethargy, any injuries you may see, that kind of stuff you want to report to our dispatcher so we know what exactly to send out. And then sort of size estimate is the best thing to give us as well. So we send the right carrier and the right amount of people. There's nothing like getting out there for a 50-pound sea lion when in fact it's 300 pounds and you don't have enough people. It's always fun to deal with. And then, what happens next, as I said, is, you keep yourself and your dog away. If you're comfortable telling other people on the beach to stay away, more power to you. We really appreciate it until we can get out there. And then our center volunteers, like I said, we usually dispatch people first to go assess and get to the beach, as well as somebody else to go get all the protective gear and stuff. So you may see someone show up in 15 minutes and then the gear arrive kind of 30 minutes later. You got to give us some lag time to get everybody rolling. But they'll arrive, they'll kind of make a perimeter, assess the animal, make sure we're good for pickup, and then we'll do our thing and rescue that animal, get him back to our Sausalito Hospital for care.
Now, I do have one more video I want to share here that's just a little bit about sort of the end of this. Meeting our ultimate goal here is to release all of those animals back out into their ocean homes. So that's the impact we're hoping to make. That's what we're trying to do to get them to sort of graduate fully from the Marine Mammal Center, means that they're going back out into the ocean where they can contribute again back to the species and to the overall ecosystem. So I have one more little short video all about releases. So this is definitely that moment that we're all working towards and working for. So it's always nice to get to see, and you can see some of the folks out there that are really excited to get to see those releases. I always think it is so funny when we have some animals that kind of hang out on the beach a little bit sometimes. They're not always as willing to leave right away. But now I think we're finally ready to answer Pam's question about a memorable rescue.
Yeah, so this is probably one of my favorite responses that we've done in the last few years. This is Elephant Seal Weasley. If you read Harry Potter, you can probably guess as to why we called him that. But this was a very strange call that came in. We got a call about an elephant seal pup on the beach. Nothing remarkable, and no real sort of commentary about the animal's fur. But then we started getting photos, and we had a couple wet photos of the animal, and it looked kind of orangish red. Maybe it's the lighting, maybe it's the sand. We get a few more, and this animal's on a very popular beach, so we're getting quite a few calls, and we finally figure out that the animal actually has orange fur for some reason or another, and we're not sure why. We're all taking bets in the dispatch offices, like, is it an oil spill, or is it, what is it? What is causing this animal's sort of red pelage there? In harbor seals, we'll see that sometimes, especially in the San Francisco Bay, where there's like a high amount of kind of chromium and other sort of trace minerals that the harbor seals will make their pelage kind of reddish. We're like, oh, maybe that's it. We never see it in elephant seals, but who knows? Um, so we finally get the animal in, and we're all huddled around, as being as quiet as possible, trying to figure out what is going on with this guy. And it turns out that his lanugo coat, his pup coat, typically is black, and they'll usually shed that after a month or so, being on the beach after birth. And Weasley just never shed it. So what it did was it slowly got more and more bleached out by the sun. And we don't have any photos here, but Weasley came in a very stern redhead and left very kind of platinum blonde, just from getting bleached out by the sun there. But again, sort of a typical elephant seal rescue, but the animal himself had so much personality and sort of pizzazz that this is one of my favorites. And he was winning hearts left and right here at TMMC, the dispatch office. We had this picture on the right here, kind of posted all over the place, and the vets were always talking about him. So that was probably one of my more memorable rescues.
Now, just like we were saying a little bit earlier, one of the things that is sort of the most important thing that we can do here is to share the shore with the wildlife. So just as we were mentioning, a lot of these animals are going to be on land, whether they're shedding their molt and they're shedding their skin through that, which happens seasonally, or they're pupping. They need the shore just as much as we do. So that's going to be sort of our big way that we can help contribute to this is not only do that yourself, but share that with other folks. So even if you never go to the beach, make sure you're spreading that around. Tell your friends. If you know somebody else that visits a shore or any other wild space, make sure that we're doing the best that we can to share that shore with our wildlife. And also make sure that you can put this phone directly right into this number directly into your phone, 415-289 SEAL. So if you ever see an animal that's sick, injured, or orphaned, that you can be sort of our first step here at the Marine Mammal Center. We rely so heavily on those phone calls coming in to make sure that we know what's going on around us. So thank you so, so much for being our first line, our first folks that are making sure that these animals are taken care of and safe. Now that's it for today. Thank you again, Justin, for being so wonderful and sharing some of your stories about what happens after the call, some of those rescues, sharing some of that information from dispatch and the best ways that we can help these marine mammals. We will have another Marine Mammal Monday, same time, same place, Monday, May 2nd at 4 o'clock, Facebook and YouTube. So join us as we celebrate Endangered Species Day a little bit early with our Back from the Brink Marine Mammal Monday. Now, if you want more and that's not soon enough for you, it is a really, really special month actually. So our pens are filling up really quickly right now. We have almost 100 patients on site. If you want a little behind the scenes tour, a little bit of a look at what our busy pupping season is like, on Thursday, April 14th, we're going to be hosting a little behind the scenes thing through our event Bright. So Katie can put that link in here where you can go with Dr. Madison as she tells us a little bit more about pupping season. We also will have another Facebook Live event Tuesday, April 19th at 1 p.m. So you can see some of our trained animal care team as they're feeding our pups a nice little lunch for the day. So thank you so much for joining us. It has been so lovely, and we hope to see you again soon. We'll hang on for a little while if there are any last questions that we didn't get to, or if there's anything else that you were curious about. But otherwise, Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you again, Justin, for joining us today for this amazing Marine Mammal Monday.
Yeah, thank you for having me again, and thank you all for watching.
Right. Bye, everybody.